Welcome back, Pirate Crew. It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and for today's video, we have a continuation of this week's OPO3 content. So the next lead that we're going to be trying out is none other than Charlotte Linlin, Big Mama herself. So Big Mama comes in the structure deck. It's the structure deck leader for this set, which, you know, most of the time structure deck leaders kind of get overlooked, right? We have Sakazuki from the structure deck for black. We've got Crocodile, and we've got... that's really about it. Everyone else has kind of been played, but Big Mama is a deck that I'm very excited for. It has a little interesting mechanic, and honestly, the color yellow in general is a little bit different than we've seen here in the One Piece metagame. So the color yellow, its identity, if you want to go ahead and call it something, is the fact that it can recover or place a card from the top of your deck towards your life area. So it tries to kind of balance the fact of losing life and gaining life in order to continue the game, which... who else but Big Mama for that thematic use of a card effect. So for those of you guys that don't know what Big Mama does, Big Mama states, as a leader, Dawn times 2, when attacking, you may add one card from the top or bottom of your life area to your hand. If your life is at a 2 or less, you may place up to one card from your hand at the top of your life area. Pretty simple, right? So she kind of burns her own life, very similar to Whitebeard, and that's kind of something I'm going to use analogous to her as we do this sort of series. She very much is an aggressive leader. You see the effect that she can put cards to the top of your life, and you're like, oh, maybe she's a control leader. No. She is Dawn times 2 attacking you like Flamingo and drawing a card. That's exactly what the card states. It's hit you for 7, draw a card. So just off of that basis alone, you can see that she's very aggressive. Not only that, she can then put a specific card from her hand onto the life area. And there's a lot of really powerful triggers in this deck that we're going to go ahead and look at, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight them for you. So starting off, we're going to be playing 4 Sanjis. Now, Sanji is a 2k counter, which this deck has really fantastic 2k counters. It is a 3k stat line, and it is one of the more aggressive 2ks that we have in the deck. It states for Dawn times 2, when attacking, you may add the top or bottom card of your life to your hand. Again, draw a card. Add up to one card from the top of your deck to your life. So this card literally says draw a card because it is replacing the card that it is adding immediately. So for Dawn times 2, which makes it a attacking number, makes it a 5k, you can swing for 5, draw a card. Pretty good payoff. Dawn times 2, draw 1 is pretty darn nice. Then we've got Cracker, and Cracker is a little cracked, if you will. So Cracker states Dawn times 1, while you have less life than your opponent, this character gains double strike and 1000 power. This is a Dawn times 1 ability. So if you are using Charlotte Linlin aggressively, you go your turn 1, you go hit, draw a card, they hit you, draw another card, you're down to 3 life, you go Cracker, and if you trigger a Cracker, because the card says trigger, you may discard a card from your hand, play this card from your hand. So if you hit a Cracker, it summons onto the board. Now I can hit you for 7 with the Cracker, double strike, 7 with the leader, draw a card, place a card to my life, and we're off to the races. A very powerful card that for a very small condition becomes exceptionally powerful, and the fact that you can trigger a 5k from life is really nothing to scoff at. It also has a 1k counter stat line, which was, you know, a little unnecessary, but I'm down. Cracker is really strong. Then we've got Charlotte Pudding, the Nami of the set. It is a 2k, a 1k counter, 1 mana 2k that can go ahead and look at the top cards of your deck that adds a Sanji or a Big Mom Pirates type card to your hand. So it can only not add itself. It has that same condition, but it is the searcher for the deck. Obviously, if we have a searcher for the deck, we're going to be playing it at 4. Then we've got Pero Sparrow. Pero Sparrow is another pseudo searcher that's just on the trickier side. Think about Jinbei meets Nami. So what Pero Sparrow does is a 5k 3 cost with no counter power. Now that's a stat line that we're very familiar with. It has the Zoro treatment. What Pero Sparrow does though, it says on KO, look at the top 3 cards in my deck, reveal a Big Mom Pirates type card and add it to my hand. Now, it is not a character, it is a type card, so it can add a spell if necessary, then place the rest at the bottom of the deck. So it, on KO, adds a card to your hand. It is a 5k, so it is continuously pressuring your opponent, and on top of that, it has the trigger mechanic, meaning that if I were to hit this card in my life, I can discard a card from my hand to summon it onto the board. And then all of a sudden, you've got to deal with another 5k similar to Cracker that's just kind of constantly crack at your life. And eventually, if you ignore this card too much, it's going to get you. But even if you don't ignore it, I get the bonus of looking at my hand. So Pero Sparrow, really interesting card. Then we have another 2k, Strusen. Strusen basically just says you can trigger this card from your hand. You may trash 1 trigger card from your hand and then knock out a 1 cost from your opponent. It doesn't really come off. He's just a 2k, 1 mana, 1k. But 2ks are really good. Then we're playing 2 of the Mermaid. Now, the Mermaid, I'm going to kill this. Shida Hoshi. She says, on play, draw 3, trash 2. So if you guys know other card games, it's literally Graceful Charity on summon, and it can also trigger to play this card. So if you hit this card in life, I all of a sudden get to filter through my hand and get deeper and deeper through my deck to find the very powerful cards that are necessary. This is one of the cards that you want to be stacking with Big Mom. It is also a 1k counter, so it's not even dead in your hand. The fact that it's 0 attack is fine, but this is like one of the cards that you want to like push, stack this to the top, and all of a sudden now I draw 3, trash 2, and I can keep moving from there and moving forward. We've got then the 8 cost Katakuri. Katakuri 8 cost is a fantastic card. It is a 8 cost 8k, so a very big boy that states, on play, put one character with a cost of 8 or less on the top or bottom of its owner life area face up. So I can trigger any of my cards, or I can target my opponent's cards. If I'm ahead on the board, I can Katakuri one of these very powerful Pero Sparrow Crackers or even Shirahoshi, and all of a sudden my opponent has to deal with the fact that they know that if they hit my life, oh well, now I got this 5k back, or I got this draw 3, trash 2, or whatever I so choose to. Most of the time, if I don't have a target to bounce with this, it just bounces Shirahoshi, and all of a sudden they're in for a really bad time. With its really solid stat line, Katakuri is sure to make waves in the next set. Then we've got the smaller Katakuri, which is a 4 cost 6k. Now this stat line is absolutely crazy. That states, on play, look at the top card of your life area or your opponent's life area. Either choose to keep it there or put it to the bottom, and then if I have less life than my opponent, I gain Rush. So 4 mana 6k Rush. It has a better stat line than the 5 mana Luffy. It has a very interesting and conditional ability that lets me gain knowledge that was previously unavailable to us in this card game. And overall, just a really easy defensible card to push. We're playing then 4 Daifukus. Daifuku is another card that says draw a card. I tried to play all the cards that possible to say draw a card. This card says Dawn ×1 when attacking. I may add the top card or the bottom card of my life area to my hand, then place one from the top of my deck to the life area. So similar again to the Sanji, but just with a bigger body. This card is going to be hitting you for 6s and 7s, and all of a sudden it's going to be 6/7 draw a card, which is very powerful. I then play 3 of the Boa Hancock. So in the blue starter deck, there was a card, Boa Hancock. You probably haven't seen it for in a really long time, but it states it has these exact same stat line as a 3-costed 1k blocker with a 1k counter that has the effect trigger, play this card from my hand. And now this is just one of the cards that is very sacky in the blue crocodile deck, but in this deck, it can be a setup card. I know exactly when to put it there, when to go ahead and, you know, with cards like Katakuri and Big Mom, I have the added knowledge of knowing when I can place these very strong Brûlée cards to the top of my deck, and all of a sudden there's these blockers that my opponent wasn't previously aware of that they have to deal with. Then I play another Pudding. She's just another 2k counter that looks at the top of my opponent's life area. Very rarely will I be fielding this card, and again, just using her 2k counter ability. I'm then playing Charlotte Linlin, the 7-drop from the starter deck. Now, this card is basically Hocus Pocus or Soul Pocus. What it says is, on play, my opponent either chooses to give me a life or burn a life. Very powerful. It basically says, on summon, my opponent banishes 1, or on summon, my opponent heals me 1. And depending on the board state, that can be huge. There's also the 10-cost Big Mom that I chose not to play in this deck because of the fact that, again, I am the aggressor. I don't want to be the one that just does 10 mana burn heal. I want to go ahead and make use of this Charlotte Linlin and play her over and over again as alongside cards like Hocus Pocus or Soul Pocus. This Soul Pocus is going to go ahead and use basically the Big Mom's effect, but it has it in the trigger ability. So the main thing that I want to do with my leader is go ahead again, drop myself down to 3, use my ability, stack a Soul Pocus, and then I'm just going to be the aggressor for the rest of the game. I'm also playing 3 of the Thunderbolt. It basically says trash a card from my hand, delete a character or KO a character with a cost of 5 or less. Also in life, it just knocks out one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. Very powerful card. And that should be rounding up the deck. Let's go to some games and see what Big Mama can do. Alright, so for our first game, we've got the classic Aggro versus Aggro, and we're playing versus the always present, the omnipresent Zoro deck. So Zoro gets a bunch of cool tools in the next set. It gets access to the Izo, which is just another 1-drop that they can use to go ahead and find very powerful cards, such as Marcos. And they also get access to just the new Marcos and very powerful effects that Red just genuinely gets from the next set. They have a way to find their Whitebeard top end, they have a way to find a mid game, and they just get access to the Marshall D Teach that is a terrifying card in the Zoro deck. So I opt to summon my Sanji. My other play was just to summon Pudding, but that just didn't seem good enough. So Sanji definitely makes use of all of my Dawn effectively. Then he goes ahead and swings at me for 6. I take the 6. He goes ahead and plays Machina, swings for another 6. And I probably shouldn't have taken this 6, but it is what it is. I'm down to get cards to my hand. So with 4 Dawn, this Katakuri, especially from being behind, is going to be really, really solid. Go ahead and use my Katakuri to look at the top card of my life, because I don't really care with that their life right now. I keep the Soul Pockets there. I swing over the Izo. I can go ahead and swing over the Makino with my Katakuri. And then I could have kept my Sanji in an unrested position, because now Sanji is in a tougher spot. And then here I swing with the Katakuri at life, which if this was a Jet Pistol, I could have been very, very punished. So that whole turn was a little bit questionable. Me taking that life was a little questionable, but we'll see if we get there. Let's see if we can use our very powerful triggers to kind of stabilize ourselves into this game. He goes ahead and plays Otama. Yeah, love to see when they summon Otama and they don't just keep it in hand for a powerful turn. And then let's see where he goes from here. He goes ahead and places 1 Dawn on Izo, goes 4 at 3. Now I think I opt to go ahead and defend this, because he now has to either go Zoro at it, or he has to choose to clear the Katakuri. If he chooses to clear the Katakuri, which he does here, I'm completely okay with it, and he still has 1 Dawn available. Now, I can go ahead and use Big Mom's effect. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 Dawn on the Sanji. Sanji's going to opt to grab the card from the bottom of my life, and then stack the top, because I know that now there's a Soul Pockets there. Let's see if he opts to take this damage. And then my opponent's just doing a little bit of thinking here. He opts to take it. I go 5, and then I'm able to go ahead and summon a Pudding. Pudding was going to go ahead and grab me either a Sanji or a Cracker here. Haven't really decided. I think I go for the Cracker, and then I'm going to go summon a Sparrow. So, pretty clean turn. Now I have 3 characters to his Otama, which is just like not a real character. And then I have Soul Pockets in my second trigger in life. He goes for the Sanji. I just let it go. And then he summons the Teach. Now, if he goes ahead and misplaces the way that this goes, he goes ahead and plays Flash Fire. Flash Fire is going to go ahead and remove both the characters I have on board. But Sparrow is just going to go ahead and grab me another Sparrow. I could have grabbed another 2K here, but I think I'm like out of aggressive threats if I do that. Goes back to my turn, and then I have to go ahead and think about what I really want to do. I think I'm just going to go ahead and use Mama. Mama, grab the top card of my deck, and then place a Thunderbolt. And if he goes ahead and mis-sequences this next turn, I can go ahead and remove the Teach for free because of the Thunderbolt. So that's pretty darn solid. And I'm going to go ahead and play another Sparrow and play a blocker. So really good use of my Dawn here. Definitely he's in for a surprise if he mis-sequences this turn. He goes Magra. Magra boosting the Otama, placing 1 Dawn on the leader. He still needs 1 Dawn on Otama for it to go ahead and go through. He places the Izo. Now this is just like mis-sequenced pretty significantly. Izo is gonna go ahead and see if he can grab a Whitebeard Pirates type of card. Places 1 Dawn on Otama, and that's just unfortunate because that's gonna hit the Thunderbolt. I'll use the trigger to remove the Teach because I know that he was setting up a play to go ahead and use the Teach, but he just immediately got punished. Now I have a Soul Pockets in the next point in life, so he places another Teach here. And let's see, he goes 6 at my lead. I let it go, and I trigger my Soul Pockets, and my opponent disconnects. You love to see it. But yeah, that's definitely the thing that's really strong about yellow. They just go ahead and let you plan out like multiple turns into the future. Very similar to like Don Quixote do Flamingo, but they do it in a way that's super bizarre and very not easy to tell. For our next game, we're going to be playing against another aggro deck, against another Monkey D. Luffy. Now, you know I got some love for Luffy all of a sudden, but let's see if we can take him down with the Big Mama. So he opts to go first, as all Luffys should try and do. And let's see if they do have the opener. So he hits the Nami. Love to see it. Now let's see what Nami grabs from his deck. Grabs a Brook. So he has a 2K counter. It goes back to my turn. I have 2 Dawn available, and I love summoning Sanji on 2. It doesn't feel terrible at all. The fact that Sanji basically just says, swing, draw card. I love it. And then let's see what they have here on turn 3. If they have like a Nico Robin, do they have a Zoro? What exactly do they have here? So I think he takes some time to think about it, and that's kind of another thing that's a little bit questionable, right? Because this first hit I'm probably going to opt to take, but if it's like a card that's very, very impactful, then like a Sparrow or a Cracker, if I'm just able to summon a 5k out of life for free, then he's going to be put into a very difficult position. He opts to go Whitebeard Pirates. Whitebeard Pirates is going to go ahead and grab him a Jozu. Probably going to use leader ability. He can go 5-5 here if he wants with the Nami and the leader, which is probably pretty darn good early on in the game. let's see what he ends up choosing to do here. Yeah, so now we're aware that he has 2/2Ks in his hand plus 4 mystery cards. That's something we have to keep present in our mind as we play these games. Just every time our opponent searches a card and they don't summon it, they don't pitch it, it's a card that we have to remember. So he opts to go, no, I think he's going to go 5. He uses leader ability, goes 6. I go ahead and let it go through. Triggers a pair of Sparrow. I'm going to go ahead and use the trigger effect here. Now, I have a lot of really good cards in hand, but since I don't see myself playing Katakuri next turn, I'm going to go ahead and pitch him to summon a pair of Sparrow, and now I just randomly got a 5k onto the board. He has 2 Dawn, which really doesn't equate to anything, and he just concedes. So, yeah, those games were pretty troll, but I wanted to show just, like, exactly how a little bit of planning and just these powerful trigger effects can immediately shift people's mentality and shift the game. A lot of people get really triggered about triggers. So I go ahead and summon Pudding. Pudding's going to go ahead and grab me the Sanji. I'm going to go ahead and summon another Pudding. It's going to summon a Big Mom. And these Big Moms are going to be huge this game. Goes ahead and swings at me for 5. Choose to take it. Now I have 2 Moms. Goes ahead and plays a pair of Sparrow. I'm going to go ahead and think about what I want to do here. I'm going to go 5 at the leader and then summon a Cracker. Goes ahead and defends the 5-2. So very, very interesting. This game's going to be showcasing pretty interesting effects. So he goes Soul Pockets. I choose to give him a life. Not going to go ahead and deal damage to myself. He goes ahead and swings at me for 5. I think I do take this one. He swings here for another 5, and then I'm going to go ahead and defend it. And it goes back to my turn, and now is when I'm going to start using my cards in a very offensive manner. So I'm going to go 7 at the pair of Sparrow, trigger the ability to add a card from my life, and then I'm going to stack my own Soul Pockets. He lets the pair of Sparrow go, because I just can't let that card go through many, many turn cycles of just hitting me in the face. I'm going to go Cracker. Cracker's going to crit him for 2, and then I'm going to play my own pair of Sparrow. So now the tempo of the game shifted enormously. So he goes to play another Soul Pockets, which, okay, heal another life, bro. It basically means draw a card. So definitely okay with that one. He swings at my life, triggers my own Soul Pockets. He opts to crit himself, which makes my Soul Pockets very, very good. And then goes to my turn. I go Cracker. Cracker hit him for 2. He opts to counter out of it 5. Then I'm going to 5 him again. And then I'm going to play my Big Mom, and then we'll see what he opts to do with my Big Mom's effect. Now, it gives him more things that he wants to question about. Does he want to go ahead and hit himself? He hits himself again, and it removes his Thunderbolt, which is a very powerful card that just gets removed out of his life. So we're now equalized in life, but my board is menacing compared to his. So let's see what he wants to do. He goes and attaches 3 Dawn. He opts to look at my life and place it towards the bottom. So that last life probably going to be pretty cool. Goes and swings 9 at my Cracker, and there's a part of me that wants to go ahead and defend it here, and I do. I'll have to defend it, which may or may not have been like a really solid move on my end. Tough to say. He puts a lot of Dawn on Pudding, and it kind of, by me pitching 3 cards, it removes like the majority of his turn, so I'm kind of okay with it. I'll go 2 at the Pudding. Probably just going to go ahead and pressure him as much as I can here. I'll take the bottom, and then I'll go ahead and place a blocker. Now I have a blocker in my life, and then I'm going to go put 1 under the Mom, swing for 9, and I'm going to play another Mom. It hits a Cracker, which is kind of a big deal, actually, and he's going to go ahead and let me heal a life, which is really, really powerful. And then he goes ahead and plays his 10-drop. 10-drop is going to go ahead and equalize the life ratio. I let Pudding go because she's never going to be attacking ever again. And now I know exactly that we have a blocker in that position. I go ahead and swing, grab the bottom card, and then stack another Thunderbolt. Swing 9. I'll swing 9 one more time. And then I could put everything under the pair of Sparrow, but he does hit a trigger here that lets him heal. So a pair of Sparrow for 7, and then I could swing, and then it hits the Thunderbolt to remove the Pudding. So he removed the possibility of a lethal, but I mean, I still think I'm in a fine position. I'll go ahead and play my own Pudding, trying to look for a 2k counter, but instead I add a Soul Pockets to my hand, which isn't great. I remove a 1k for a Soul Pockets, but I know exactly that I have Thunderbolt into blocker. So I should be fine here no matter what he does. He adds 5. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if it's 5, then that's going to be Thunderbolt. I remove the card, and he shouldn't be doing the second hit. Somehow he does the second hit, and it doesn't trigger my Brûlée, which I'm unable to summon, and it puts me in a really tough spot, because if I had Brûlée here, I could have probably comboed out of it, but it is what it is. If anyone knows exactly what happened there ruling-wise, please go ahead and let me know, because it might have also just been a mistake from the sim part. I opt to go first here versus the Law player. I want to put him on the back foot a little bit, but this is now going to be a very interesting game. So that game went from like a hugely winning position, the yellow game, into like all of a sudden get sacked and die. Love to see it. So my opponent has a really solid start of Nami into Chopper, but Nami does whiff, so that's excellent for us. You love to see it. I'm going to go ahead and just swing at him for 7 and draw a card. Feel like Whitebeard. And then I'm assuming he's just going to take it. There's no reason not to. Law takes life all the way down to like 1 or 2 life pretty aggressively. And then I'm going to go ahead and summon a Pudding. Pudding's going to go ahead and add me a Daifuku, because Daifuku is a really strong card. And it goes back to my opponent's turn. Let's see what he wants to do here. If he wants to go ahead and like Vista this, that's pretty okay as well. Goes ahead and summons a Makino. Makino's fine. It's going to make his Nami a little bit more pumped up. He can go ahead and like trigger some interaction from me this turn, while also like removing my board with the Makino and the Vista. So it goes back to my turn. I go ahead and try to clear the Nami, but this is probably going to fetch the Chopper. Nami is just too important for him to keep. I go ahead and play my Pudding again. Pudding's going to add a Soul Pocket. Then I'm going to play a Daifuku, and I'm going to go ahead and pass. Now, that wasn't a very powerful turn on my end. It was very like slow turn. I didn't really have like a lot of pressure that I gained. But at the same time, I did go ahead and like make the best of what I had. The fact that Makino is still there is really unfortunate. So he's going to go ahead and put 2 Daunt under his Vista, and it looks like he's just going to attack me a bunch of times this turn, which I'm kind of okay with. That means that the majority of his hand isn't really doing much. He goes ahead and swings me for 5. Swings at me for 5. I'm going to go ahead and counter with... trying to see what else he can do with the rest of his turn. 4 Dawn is really awkward for Law. I mean, if he has double 1-drop, he can go 1-drop Shambles into Law Summon Zoro is something that I also looked at. But hopefully that's not the case. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So I'm going to be able to go ahead and remove his board as much as possible. And I'm going to start drawing cards while also stacking my life. Excuse me, guys, I'm a little sick. Gonna go 7, go ahead and stack a card into life here, remove his whole board, which is really nice. And this is also going to be able to come down. Gonna go ahead and stack the Otama to the bottom of his life, and then swing at him for 6. So now he has no board to my really strong board, and he's gonna have to rebuild while also dealing with my board, which is gonna be very difficult for him. So he goes ahead and plays Curly D. Curly D is able to find the Nami. Nami's gonna be able to find the Chopper, which is exactly what he wants to do. 1 card getting 3 cards is really solid value. He's going to be able to Vista my Pudding, which Pudding was never like a real threat, so I'm absolutely fine with that. And he goes ahead and swings at me for 6. He triggers into the Soul Pocket, and he opts to gain me the life. So it's basically pass a turn. So I'm going to go ahead and go Daifuku again, add the top card to my life, which is a Katakuri, which is really good. Swing with Katakuri. Then I'm going to go ahead and play another Katakuri. Lets me see this. I'll go ahead and place it to the bottom. I don't gain Rush because I'm no longer at less life than him, which is something I had to be cognizant of. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one, stack here. And now I have Pero Sparrow plus a Soul Pockets in life. I have 2k counter. So I'm in a pretty okay spot. He's really low on resources here, but I definitely have to think about what I want to go ahead and do next. Now, this Pudding isn't going to be coming down because it just doesn't really do much. He pistols, and that's unfortunate. Out of life, but it is what it is. And I'm thinking about using the Thunderbolt, but the Thunderbolt being me removing a card from my life is just not the way that it goes. It's just better in life, and I want to be able to stack it as much as physically possible. So by keeping 2 up, even though I don't really have 2 up, I go ahead and make him think a little bit weird. He goes ahead and swings at my Daifuku. I defend it. He goes ahead and plays the Otama. Now, Otama under the Katakuri is pretty solid because he's going to be able to remove it here. I can defend that in a very solid fashion. And it doesn't seem like I'll be able to summon any more 4-drop Katakuris for the rest of this game. He goes again at my Daifuku. I go ahead and defend it with the Mermaid. And now he has 4 Dawn available. He still hasn't Shambled. So we have to hope that he doesn't have any green cards in his hand, which is... I don't think I've seen him summon a single green card, which is good for us. He goes ahead and plays the Makino down by removing his Curly to Dawn, and this is really good for us. Now he cannot remove the Daifuku anymore, and I know exactly what's in my life, so I can go ahead and do it in an efficient manner. He actually does have the Law, which goes ahead and Shambles, adds the Nami. Nami goes ahead and adds a Zoro, and now we have to play around that for potentially next turn. So our turn has to be pretty simple. Just going to go ahead and use Big Mom. I'm going to use Big Mom before anything because I want to get more information off of this draw. I don't want to go ahead and use Daifuku to draw a card that I already know, so I go ahead and add a Pudding, which is much better for me than the other cards that were in life. Going to go swing 6 at 3 just to remove another threat. I'm going to go 7 at 0, choose to take the life, and go ahead and stack a Thunderbolt. And now Thunderbolt's going to go ahead and remove that Law immediately if he ever chooses to swing at my life. He goes ahead and plays the Otama. Now, this Otama can either go on the Big Mom or it can go on the Daifuku. Since it goes on the Big Mom, I'm assuming that he has a Jet Pistol. Goes ahead and plays Curly D. Curly D adds a Makino. Makino isn't really going to go ahead and do much at this point in time. He goes ahead and... But that's another card that we have to be cognizant that's in his hand. He goes 7 at my Daifuku. So his blocker is now tapped, which is kind of questionable. He goes 5 at my leader. It's going to trigger the Thunderbolt. I'm just going to remove it. And he still has 6 Dawn to work with. He goes ahead and plays the Zoro. I know exactly that it is Soul Pocket, so he has to give me the life. And then he goes and swings at me with this. I'm going to go ahead and defend that one because I don't know what that life is now, and I want to kind of like have that information. He restands his Zoro, swings at my leader for 6. I choose to take it. Now, I have to be very careful how I do this. I know he has exactly 2 2Ks in hand, so if I go 9... I choose to take it, go to play Thunderbolt there. And he cannot defend this. And then the rest of my Dawn under my Big Mom. And that should be game. And even if he has 3 2Ks, I'm just outside of the threshold for it. And that's game. So we're back with the deck. And man, yellow can make people pretty darn salty. Besides that game where we had a weird interaction that caused us to lose, which I would like to give up to all those judges that may or may not be watching this. Why didn't Brule trigger when he double striked me and I also triggered the Thunderbolt? It was a very interesting situation that I've never seen before. I'm not sure if it's a bug from the simulator or if that's an intended side effect, but that was really interesting. My opponent double striked me. I triggered the Thunderbolt to stop the double strike because I thought it was a Digimon ruling, like if the character was no longer there, it wouldn't hit the second attack, but that wasn't the case. And then he hit the second attack, hit another trigger card, and it didn't trigger my trigger card. If anyone knows what the heck happened there, that'd be fantastic. But back with the deck. Charlotte Linlin. Wow. It worked exactly as I thought it would. Constantly applying pressure, and then my opponent has to deal with consistent Soul Pockets. Just get hocus pocused out of the game. Every time they hit me, oh my goodness, I have to... If I let you hit me, it's because I'm allowing you to hit a big trigger. And even I can then also defend these triggers that I know are there. And using cards like this Katakuri, this Sanji, the Daifuku, it just allows you to get so much knowledge of what's in my life, and I can play with basically a second hand. And that's very, very powerful. The fact that I know what's in my life, I know what's in my hand, and I can continuously swap between them makes for Charlotte Linlin to be a very interesting leader and something that I'm very excited to mess around with. Oftentimes, I noticed my opponents would hit a trigger in life on the first or second life. If you hit a very important trigger early on, it almost feels game losing. The fact that Pero Sparrow or Cracker can just be triggered off the first life, and all of a sudden a 5k body just summoned itself to the board, you're going to be in for a tough time. Not only that, but being able to continuously drop Linlin, Big Mama, you're just mama all over your opponent, man. It's a lot of pressure. Her size, the 7A stat line is huge. The fact that most of the time you have to choose to give me the life, so it's just cool. I played a card, draw a card. I played a 7-8, I drew a card, and now we're on it. If I'm in the aggressive seat, if I'm on the driver's seat of the game, this card coming back to back feels very akin to Whitebearding back to back. If you're in the driver's seat and you go back to back, it almost feels very similar to this, and that's something that you'll understand once you start playing it. The 10 drop is also a very powerful card. I know this list isn't the best Big Mom list out there, but it's definitely a really solid starting point. I didn't make use of Shida Hoshi in any of my games, but I do believe that the ideology behind this card, that I can choose when to put it, I can Katakuri it back. I know I used Katakuri once or twice during these games, but it felt like a very powerful card. I didn't really have to summon it, but if I'm in a position where I need to heal, I can always Katakuri my own cards, and it is like a very interesting mechanic that could allow me to stall out and potentially win a game. I don't know what to say other than this feels like it's going to be a very impactful color. It's going to spice up this very red-heavy meta, in my opinion, and I'm excited to mess around with what this deck has to do. If you guys like this sort of content, make sure to hit a like down below. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave it in that comment section where, I mean, maybe I didn't play as perfectly as I could have, but let's talk about it in the comment section. And if anyone literally has any idea what happened on that turn where I lost to the Katakuri player, please let me know, because I want to be aware of that ruling for future reference. I'm not entirely a judge for One Piece, but I kind of get how the mechanics work, and that was one that I've never seen happen and really left me stunned. And as always, guys, if you're enjoying this type of content and want to join the Pirate Crew, please hit that subscribe button. We're almost at our 3,000 subscriber goal, so the closer we get to that 3,000 subscribers, the faster I can get someone that super pre-release Luffy deck. in their hands. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Later, gamers.